And we are live for some March Madness bracketology. How's it going, everyone? It is a fantastic time of year. Nothing like peak bracket season. A lot to talk through on live today. We are going to break down region by region analysis, our top winners and choices to win the bracket, our top upsets. I'm going to be having multiple different bracketology experts, content creators joining live today. I really just started digging into all of the data and information a couple days ago. Like I'm sure many of you already feel like I'm forming some strong opinions on bracket strategy. We'll talk a lot of game theory on the live today, depending on your pool size and how that should adjust your strategy based on the settings, scoring settings of your pool, but also just the number of people in your pool, I think really should dictate strategy oftentimes in March Madness. I'm going to talk through the bracket, my current up-to-date bracket I plan to use in the bulk of my pools right now. I'll talk through some of the decision points I'm struggling the most with, some of the things I feel strongest about, and then we will have some people joining the live as well. This is all going to be from the bracket builder in the WalterPicks app. If you haven't downloaded this yet, this is the best place to build brackets. You're going to get all of the information really you could possibly want in one place to build out your bracket. And then you can sync that to ESPN, CBS, NCAA.com, etc. Shout out to all of you already hopping in the live stream here, but you're going to see us talk through a number of different metrics on the live tonight, talking through some of the really more difficult decisions. This is the finals matchup I got right now. This is the chalkiest finals matchup you could have. It's a really interesting year because of how chalky it ended up being last year. Literally 4 1 seeds made it to the Final Four, which is what I had in my bracket. You never feel good doing the chalky thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. Duke, just an absolutely insane statistical team here this season. They're the number one most efficient team. When we look at overall efficiency, this is adjusted for strength of opponent. It's a combo of both the offensive and defensive efficiencies adjusted for strength of opponent. One of the, if not the single best metric to look at, because it's so hard to account for the different strengths of opponents teams play across college basketball. I mean, there's like 300 something Division I college basketball teams. It's really, really important to quantify that. And that's what these 3 efficiency metrics let us do. It's really tough to pick Duke losing really until I would say the Elite 8 is like the soonest I think I could see them losing in the tournament. But right now, in the finals, losing to Arizona, who is a very comparable team. I mean, we have them at 49.3% to beat Duke if this were the matchup. And you got to think the vast majority of brackets are going to have Duke winning. So there's a bit of an edge there as well. All right. I want to start by talking about the teams that I think have an actual chance to win the tournament as we kick off this live game. We're going to have a bunch of people joining the live and giving their takes. But for me, in most of my bracket pools, like it ultimately comes down to, did you get the winner right or not? You're not going to win your pool if you don't get the correct winning team. So this is always where I think you have to start. And then the other game theory thing that comes into play with March Madness pools is, okay, what are the teams that actually have a chance to win? What is their chance to win? And then how many people are going to pick these different teams to win? And what's the difference between those numbers? Because if Duke, for example, if I go to the insights here, I think I have Arizona winning now. This explains it pretty well. If 15% of brackets have Arizona winning, but they only have a 7% chance to win, that you're not getting much of an edge there over, especially in large pools. But the numbers here are even worse for Duke because they're the most picked team to win. If I pick Duke to win here for a second, we can see how that changes this analysis. Yeah, 17, a little bit more, 17% versus 15%. I feel like it's going to be more like 20% of people in my pools are going to have Duke, which makes me a little less inclined to take Duke. Less people I have to beat out, assuming Arizona wins. And there's like a 50-50 game here, basically. So I lean towards taking Arizona for that reason. And that logic can extend beyond just who's going to win. But I think all 4 1 seeds have a legit shot to win. I think Florida's chances to win are the worst amongst the 4 1 seeds. They are the weakest 1 seed. So they already have the worst chance to win, assuming all 4 1 seeds make it to the Final Four again, which is probably not going to happen 2 years in a row, but it's possible. Florida would have the worst chance left amongst those 4 to win the championship if that scenario happened. So they're the weakest 1 seed, just sort of by definition. I do think this region here, the Southeast region, I think here, or the Southwest region, is the most likely for chaos to ensue, partially because Florida is the weakest 1 seed. I could see Vanderbilt beating Florida. I had this earlier. I could see Vanderbilt or Illinois in the Final Four. Wouldn't surprise me really at all. Right now I have Illinois there. It's certainly more likely than Vanderbilt. Both these teams have strong offenses. Vanderbilt's offense, 7th best in efficiency adjusted for strength of opponent. They have a better offense than Florida. Their defense is nowhere near the level of Florida's, though. And it's a similar story for Illinois. Their defense is a bit better than Vanderbilt's, but their offense is literally the number 2 offense in the country in terms of efficiency. And they can nail threes, this team too. 39% of their points come from 3. There's some volatility with that I like as a 3 seed for their potential to make the Final Four. Illinois could absolutely win this tournament. I think Vanderbilt could absolutely win this tournament as well. But right now in my most up-to-date bracket, I'm leaning towards Illinois. The decision point between Illinois, Florida, and Vanderbilt feels really tough for me and is going to be one of the decisions that makes or breaks my pools this year. I'm pretty chalky on the right side of the bracket right now. Part of me wants to put Purdue in the Final Four. They did just beat Michigan 80-72. That was 2 days ago. They just beat number 1 seeded Michigan. I mean, this offense is legit from Purdue. They have the number 1 most efficient offense in the league. Somehow, Braden Smith still balling in college basketball. They have 4 seniors in their starting lineup. So I do part of me wants to put Purdue in the Final Four if I want to make a bit of a different bracket, but I do think Arizona's better. And I think Arizona right now, they're my pick to, I think I switched it to Duke here as we were talking, but right now I have Arizona winning as a pretty good pick to win with what percentage of people are picking them right now. All right, those were some quick high-level thoughts there. We're going to be welcoming in our first guest to the live today. Excited to let him in. I know he's been in the weeds on college basketball for weeks at this point, and so I'm sure he's very excited to talk some bracketology. Avery, man, how are things going?
What is going on, chat? Like Sam has said, I have been eating, breathing, and sleeping college basketball. I have been dreaming about all of these 11, 5, 6, 4 upsets, 13s, everything. And I have some takes for you, chat. It's going to be a good stream.
Pumped to talk through it, Avery. And I kicked off the live mentioning this, but I really started diving into all the numbers, the data, like basically Selection Sunday night. So you're a few weeks ahead of me. I'm very curious to pick your brain on some of the things and opinions I've formed already, just building the first versions of my bracket in the WalterPicks app. By the way, you can see both Avery and I's entire up-to-date brackets as we tweak them. I don't know how much you're still tweaking, Avery, but I feel like it's like start-sit decisions. I'm like tweaking right up till kickoff, basically. But you can see our complete full brackets in the WalterPicks app up to date for free if you haven't checked those out yet. But Avery, let me just talk you through some of the high-level takes I had early on.
Let's do it.
I want to start with the teams that have a realistic chance to actually win the tournament. And like, what is that actual list of teams? Because to me, in almost all the pools I'll be in, I'll probably be in a total of 4 pools. I'll probably have 6 or 7 different bracket entries, but probably will only submit 1 or 2 brackets. I really like only having 1. But in general, you got to pick the right winner to win the pools I'm going to be in. Like, there's going to be enough people in them that if you don't have the winner correct, it was all for naught. You know, maybe I nailed the upsets in round 1, maybe even had 7 out of the Elite 8. But if I don't pick the right winner, it's all kind of for nothing. So it's where I like to start my analysis with how my pools are sort of scored. And the basic ESPN scoring is basically that. It's like, I think it's 64 points or 32 points or something to get the winner, or like the round 1 is like literally 1 point. Right now I have Arizona winning. For me, the list of teams that could legit win, the 4 1 seeds, I think all have a chance, but to me, Florida is the weakest 1 seed. But I would say all 4 of them have a legit chance. They're all very good teams. Duke and Arizona, these are the top 2 favorite teams to win the tournament, who I have in my finals right now, the chalkiest finals that I could have, which I feel gross about, but I felt gross about that last year too, with 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, and that ended up going 4 for 4, and I won some pools because of that. So I don't think being chalky is necessarily bad either. I think Illinois and Vanderbilt are the two teams that I like coming out of Florida's region if Florida doesn't win. So I put both those teams as capable of winning, but it's going to be tough for them to win those last two games if they make it there against probably two one seeds or teams comparable to the one seeds. I don't really see a team beating Duke. Maybe Michigan State could do it. But I don't see Michigan State beating Duke, then going on and winning another two games against Duke-like opponents and winning the finals. So I don't really see another team. UConn to me is not a normal UConn team. I have them getting upset in round two here, and UCLA advancing to the Sweet 16. It's like one of the few sort of big upsets I think I have. I mean, this is a pretty close game in terms of how we have it here. I could see an argument they could win, but I don't think I'm buying that. I think Purdue definitely has a shot, and I do kind of want Purdue in my Final Four. They're the number one most efficient offense, and I feel like I want to make the bet on offense over defense in the tournament. Just in general, that's kind of just my mentality. Sometimes that can definitely come back to bite me in March Madness, though. Like defense definitely does matter, but Purdue is the number one most efficient offense. Their defense is obviously the weakness for them. They're not as well rounded of a team as the other one seeds, and I don't even think they're as well rounded as Illinois or Vanderbilt on the defensive side. And then in the South, was this the Southeast region? Iowa State, I could see an argument for. They're a pretty well-rounded team, pretty good offense, 23rd in efficiency, sixth best defense. Just Michigan's such a powerhouse. I don't really see anyone beating Michigan in this bracket, in this side of the bracket. Maybe Alabama could do it. They're at 42%. I mean, it's possible. Their defense ranks 67th. Though, can they really win the whole thing? Even if they beat Michigan, probably not, in my opinion. So I guess it's a pretty short list for me. It's Michigan, it's Arizona, it's Duke, it's Florida, Illinois, Vanderbilt, and Purdue. I think that's basically my 7 teams that I could see realistically winning the tournament. And then I sort of work backwards from there of, okay, what percentage of people are actually going to pick them to win? What makes sense in my pools? And this is where I landed so far. But yeah, like I said, I'm still definitely tweaking sort of up to kickoff. But I'll stop there. Do you think I missed any teams that like you could see realistically winning, or any of those teams you disagree with that could win?
Yeah, my Final Four is pretty similar to yours. I am definitely still making a few tweaks. I am the kind of guy, I'm not necessarily the let's get the most high percentage chance to win my bracket pool kind of player. I'm more of like, I want to get the upsets right. I want to have that kind of ability to make fun of my friends in that way. Who cares if I get the best bracket? Unless I'm playing for money, then I will. But I do have the Michigan and Iowa State matchup here in the Elite Eight is something that I am definitely looking at. This is the biggest matchup I've been back and forth in between. Michigan is really good. They were my early favorite weeks ago to make this final run to get the national championship. But I think Iowa's defense is just something that you can't ignore. They've beaten some very good powerhouse teams as well. It's really just a game of runs in March Madness, especially in the tournaments. And I think Iowa has the firepower, the offense, the defense to be able to stay up to date with Michigan. And I do have them winning and making it to the Final Four over Michigan in that. I've done a ton of live streams already, and I have a ton of public perception of what people think. And I have a lot of birds in my ears telling me that Duke is not going to make it that far. And I understand that point because Caleb Foster is not going to be healthy. He might be able to come back in the Final Four. He might be able to come back in the championship round. I personally do have Duke winning the national championship, even without him healthy in the first couple rounds. But I will say, Duke has one of the toughest draws. The committee has just decided to put every powerhouse big name school in the East over here. I mean, if they get past Siena in the first round, which 100% they should, you got to beat one of Ohio State or TCU. TCU has been able to beat some insanely good schools so far in their tournament and all the games that they've played. Ohio State is on such a hot run right now, though. You typically want to be taking the hot teams running into March because they can continue that streak. You got to beat one of those. After that, you got to play an insanely good defense in St. John's if they make it to you, or you have to play Kansas if you have Darren Peterson playing every single minute of every game. This is as lethal of a team as anybody can play. It's such a tough draw. And then you got to play Michigan and or UConn. I know you don't have a ton of faith in UConn. I don't think they're going to beat Michigan. That's what I have in my bracket, but they're one of the weaker 2 seeds that we've seen so far. I do have Illinois making it to my final four as well in that, but there's so many possibilities with these 1 seeds. I think Arizona is the most sure 1 seed that we've seen. They're the deepest roster. They're really good on offense and defense. Yeah. They, to me, seem like the favorite safe pick. I know Duke, I think technically is the consensus top pick that everybody is making just because of name value, but I really don't think they should be that considering the injuries.
Yeah, so you said the guy there's two injuries, right? One of them is not a big deal. The one guy's supposed to be back, I
Yeah,
believe. Caleb Foster's the one that is not going to be back till what, at least the final four. And
it
you said,
looks like it. It's still a pretty like up in the air kind of frame for the injury.
yeah, and I mean, it looks like he plays a lot of minutes, but only 8.5 points a game. Like he's not their primary scorer. But he is like he's the most junior player they have in the starting lineup. He's a junior. Everyone else freshman or sophomore.
Yeah.
I do like looking at that in March Madness too. I know I saw some stat, leading when your team's leading guard scorer is a freshman. Typically, that doesn't bode so well. I think that might have been your content there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like Duke's got to fall into that right this year. I guess it's a forward that's their first leading
Mhm.
scorer. Maybe that doesn't count, but he is a freshman. So yeah, I mean, I think Duke is they are the most efficient, right? Yeah, they're number one overall efficient. They're fourth in offense and first in defense. There's no way that's just this one player who's averaging 8.5 points a game. Is there a second injury here too that is going to be back? I don't know why I was thinking that might be the case.
Yeah, there is a second injury. I think they're going to be at full strength to go for the first round, definitely the first weekend for sure. Caleb Foster is really the only one that's much of an issue to make
Okay.
it back for the tournament. But it's not an end all be all kind of injury, but it definitely does add some kind of risk level, especially with the one seeds. We know typically not all four of them make it into the final four.
Yeah, yeah, and I will say too, what you were saying about the name value, that is a real thing that I care about as I'm thinking to the game theory of my pools. 'Cause I'm just trying to win my pools. I could care less about anything else. And if half the people are going to pick Duke, I mean, there's no way picking Duke is smart. Like they don't have a 50% chance to win, right? So like if 50% of people are going to pick them to win, especially in the more casual pools that some of which I'm in, like it really could skew pretty Duke heavy because of the name value and because they're literally the top team at the same time. But yeah, if they have a tough road, like I mean, it's tough with UConn being the weakest two seed or one of the weaker two seeds, but all the other seeds they might have to face up to that point could be pretty strong. UCLA and Michigan State are definitely no joke either if it doesn't end up being UConn that they have to go through. Right now, I have Duke in the finals. You have me rethinking a bit if I even want Duke to be either in the finals or in the final four if they're going to be that popular. And I do trust your sense based on the comments you see as well. What about my Illinois and Vanderbilt takes and my take that Florida is the weakest one seed? How do you feel about this region in the bottom left here?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest regions to predict for me as well. I do think Florida is on the weaker side of a one seed. I don't have them going insanely far in all of my brackets. I also just don't think they can run it back and win two in a row. So I don't have them in my final four either for that reason. You can call that whatever you want to call it. That's not necessarily statistical, but when it comes down to March Madness, half the time it isn't statistical anyways.
Right.
I do think Vanderbilt is a really, really good lock to make it past the first weekend. A lot of people I've seen like the McNeese thing. I think it's just a name value. Like they've made it to the tournament. They've won their conference tournament 2 years in a row. They don't have any of the same players that they did last year. They just have the same boombox guy that brings them out of the tunnel. That's not going to win you March Madness games. So I'm easily taking Vanderbilt in this one. I don't think it should be a conversation. Nebraska's a really good team. I have them playing in the round of 32. They are streaky. Like they make a lot of shots. They're really offensive oriented. They've won a lot of good games. You can check their volatility rating. They've also lost a lot of
40,
games that they shouldn't have.
41% from three. That's the 10th most in all of the NCAA. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I do have Vanderbilt making it there as well. I don't think that take on your bracket is bad at all.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, especially in the sharper pools, it feels like this region's is like so interesting because if everyone believes Florida's the weakest one seed, it might actually be a bit contrarian to send them to the final four because like you don't want no people don't want to put 4 1 seeds in the final four. So like this might be the common one people are taking out, which makes it kind of an interesting argument to put them
Exactly.
maybe what you're saying about Duke and they're the team to go against if everyone's picking Duke. I was just pulling this up. What was the team you said their defense was really strong? Was it St. John's maybe?
Yeah, St. John's has a good defense.
There was a team that we were just looking at that held Purdue to like almost no points.
Might have been Iowa State at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it was Iowa State. Yeah, look at this. They held Purdue to
Yeah.
58 points. That Purdue's the number one most efficient offense in college basketball, and they held them to 58 points, beat them by almost 30. So like 25-point win here by Iowa State. Definitely some strong non-one seeds this year. Like I feel like last year I went chalky and I went with the 4-1 seeds in the Final Four, and I felt like that ultimately made sense because they were just so strong.
Right.
But like this year, there's 3 super strong 1 seeds, but then there's also some like really strong 2 through 5 seeds that you could argue are better than Florida, or really could have been a 1 seed in normal years. Feels like it is a lot different than last year.
Yeah, and I definitely will say I'll call out some of the things in the chat here. I have a couple high point comments, a couple 13 seed, 12 seed thing. I don't think High Point really has that much of a chance. I see a lot of people talking about it. Wisconsin is a good team. They're on a roll. Like they definitely have lost some games that they shouldn't have lost, but I don't think High Point, you can make the case that they don't play any good competition. You can say that for all of the mid majors. I just
Right.
don't think they really belong in this tournament. I will say one of the teams that I really do think is underrated, and unfortunately, it has really become a consensus popular pick, is the South Florida matchup against number 6 Louisville. It just screams upset to me, and I hate that everybody's going across with this too. Because you look at this team, they were 25-8 in the regular season. The losses that they had really like they never got ran off the floor. They were never embarrassing bad losses. Again, another situation you could say their competition isn't great, but they're 8th in the country for scoring almost 90 points per game. Elite offense for what they are. They're very quick, very athletic. They're explosive. That's the kind of team I like to ride with in March Madness. Their rebounding is insane, and it's led them to have top 5 most shots in every single game that they've played this year. I think they play very similar basketball to Louisville. Their offenses are very similar. I just don't think Louisville is really that consistent. They're not great in their ACC games. I believe they're 1-8 in their quad 1 games as well. They don't play great defense. So if they can't control the pace of this South Florida offense, it's going to be tough for them. And I do think we've seen the committee make a lot of really powerful 5 seeds, like Vanderbilt at a 5, Tennessee at a 6. Like those are really underrated 5 and 6 seeds. I don't see that the thing as similar for Louisville. I don't think they're a very strong 6 seed like we see some of these other teams. And you even look at the books, Louisville, I believe, is minus 220 to win this game. That's one of the shortest differences in odds from a 6 to 11 matchup. So I hate that the public perception is agreeing with me, but even before all this happened, I do think South Florida is a team that can make it far. I've seen a couple Hofstra calls as well over Alabama now that they're losing one of their top guys from stuff I'm not going to mention. I do think Hofstra with their guard play can make a deep run, but I just want to call that out that those are 2 teams I think can really make some upsets.
Yeah, I like those shouts. I mean, it definitely stands out. Louisville's volatility, literally number 1, and this is in all of college basketball, not even just the tournament. Like the most volatile team. That means they could both upset teams much better than them, and they could lose to teams much worse than them. Like this would be the case in at least round 1. Makes them a really interesting team to think through in terms of a bracket. Because I could also see Louisville beating Michigan State in the second round, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
one of the weakest 2 seeds I think in the tournament. Like depending on who they face, and they could face UCLA or UConn. They could be like near even odds in that one too if they're getting hot after 2 wins, and then suddenly they're in the like that. That's the risk you run always with these round one upset picks. And I really like to pick upsets with the high volatility, but I also really like to go for upsets that even if I'm wrong, the team that I'm wrong about, they don't have a great chance of going too far, right? Those are the types of upsets I also like to think through, where I think that you do run some risk with Louisville going a bit further than you would like. That makes sense. Yeah, we got a question about Hofstra. Where's Hofstra on this
All the way
tier?
on the left side back there. I believe actually no, they're on the bottom right down there. Playing Alabama. This one, they have great guard play, which is why I think that they can beat Alabama. And Alabama has some injuries as well, or not injuries. They have some controversy, which is why one of their players is not playing. But it's going to be tough, man, because the top 4 seeds, I really don't think have
Which
an easy
player's not
chance.
playing? Which player's not playing here?
In Holloway.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty big deal. 17 points a game.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
He's their second minute leading player. He's also the oldest player on the team.
It definitely is a tough one.
But Hofstra's best win came against Syracuse. I mean, how am I
Exactly. Exactly.
about that? Their adjusted efficiency is atrocious.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those
90.
pure.
Not even a top 90 offense or defense.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those pure Cinderella runs. I think it's going to be really hard to keep up with Alabama's offense. Like I think they can score. They have great guards. I think they can keep up in that way, but their defense is just it's going to be tough to stack
Right,
up with Alabama.
not necessarily the oldest, but he is of these five showing in the starting five. He is the only junior. All right, there's one senior. Sorry, I missed that. Second most senior. Age and seniority are two different things in college these days. But yeah, that all makes sense. So let me just hear your take on who you have winning, Avery. I know you tossed some shade on Duke, has me reconsidering Duke a bit. Here, I got my Final Four up here. Sound like yours was somewhat similar at least. But yeah, who do you have winning? And then one last upset take before we bring Sam's on.
Yeah, I do definitely understand the shade for Duke. I think it's completely real. I also have them winning the national championship though, so I clearly don't think it's that much of an issue. I think if they can make it to the Final Four, they can potentially get Caleb Foster back. I think if they make it through the gauntlet of the East, they're 100% winning the whole thing. It's just they got to make it there first, and I don't think they're going to lose in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. So yeah, I think they are number one for me if they can make it there, but Arizona is probably the safest pick with their depth, the way that they play ball, and the route that they have to make it with the bracketology. So those are my top 2. And then I do like the South Florida upset. I also do like number 10 Missouri over Miami. They've beaten some really, really comparable teams that win a lot of good games. Those are probably my biggest 2 upsets for this March Madness.
Love it. Yeah, well, they have beaten some very strong teams. It's definitely a good call. Avery, thanks so much for the time, man. Good luck in your pools and for all the analysis.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to be bringing Sam's on stage. So on one side of that conversation, Avery's trying to talk me out of Duke, and then he ends with Duke winning the whole thing. And this is the Duke conundrum. I feel like this year, there's a reason they're the number one most efficient team in college basketball. The injury doesn't really scare me that much. They're the 4th best offense, the number 1 defense, and what? So they're going to get a player back that's not even the most consequential player for them, Caleb Foster, in the Final Four or the finals. Man, it's really tough to not have them going pretty far here. All right, we're going to bring Sam's on. Sam's, I know you've been grinding the college basketball analysis a little longer than I have. I really dive into the numbers like Selection Sunday until the bracket's out. That's when I really start to dive in and really think through the game theory and the actual college basketball analysis across the tournament. I'm going to start by giving you my high level takes that I have sort of built conviction around, and I want you to poke holes with them or agree with them. And then of course we'll get to your takes. For everyone in the chat, guys, shout out to everyone already tuned in to the live. Hit the like button, does help us out a ton. The March Madness bracket features in the WalterPicks app, they're 100% free. Everything you see on screen basically this whole time is a free feature in the WalterPicks app. You can go use yourself to build your own bracket. You can sync it to ESPN, CBS, and NCAA.com. You can see myself, Samps, Avery, and Seth, all of our brackets for free in the app. You can just duplicate them, play around with them, change them as you see fit in the app as well. Super powerful stuff. Shout out to everyone who's liked the live, who's tuned into the live, and who's checked out the app. All right, Samps, I always start with who's got an actual chance to win the whole tournament, because in all of my pools, I'll be in several this year. Like, if you don't get that right, you basically lose almost automatically with how many people are in them. So I really like to start by just narrowing it down there. I led this off with Avery too. To me, I think there's 7 total teams that, like, to me, there's a realistic chance they could win. The 4 1 seeds all definitely have a chance. I think Florida's the weakest 1 seed of the 4, though, and I don't really see them winning, but they definitely could. Like, it wouldn't be crazy to see them win. Then I have Illinois and Vanderbilt as well. Out of this region with Florida, the weakest 1 seed, I can see both those teams making runs, both offensive, defensive, and the rebounding ability of those teams. I think, like, Illinois here in this game against Duke, the number 1 team, we have them at 46% chance to win, like basically a coin flip. Like, if they can get to the Final Four, they got 2 coin flips to win the tournament. No one else is going to have Illinois for the most part in my bracket pools. I'm strongly considering in my bigger pools shifting towards Illinois. I feel similar about Vanderbilt, but it's just a slightly riskier version, I think, of Illinois. A 5 seed, like, they could legit lose round 1. It wouldn't be that crazy historically. So it's definitely scary to put a 5 seed this far. On the other sides of the brackets, like, it's really just Purdue. Purdue, maybe Iowa State, you could argue, like, maybe they could win, but Purdue's kind of the only other team on my list of 7. So it's those 4 1 seeds. It's Vanderbilt, Illinois, and then Purdue. And, like, that's kind of the end of list for me of the teams I'm considering winning my pools and winning the tournament to win my pools. Do you think I missed anyone there that you would advocate for? That's sort of my starting point when building the brackets, we can talk through, of course, some upsets and stuff like that too. But that's kind of where I'm starting at. And I'm really struggling with the Duke thing because I feel like their name value, it's going to be like 40% plus in some of my pools are going to be picking Duke. And that just doesn't really make sense to pick Duke if there's going to be that many people taking them, even though they're the number one team. Avery laid out a pretty good narrative of why their path is actually kind of tough outside of UConn being a pretty weak 2 seed. I do like picking the upset here with UConn. It's probably one of the bigger upsets I'm taking here because I think UConn also has this name value. People just love UConn in the tournament, so they'll have them going pretty far, but they're actually kind of a weak 2 seed in reality in terms of the efficiency stuff. I like UCLA too. It's kind of an underrated 7 seed, but I'll pause there, Sam. So I know I just said a lot. Pumped to hear your view too, as someone who's been deep in this stuff for several weeks.
Yeah, that Eastern region is like it's unfair. Duke is the number 1 overall seed, and they gave them the toughest region in my opinion. I think there's some misseedings in there. I think St. John's being a 5 is an absolute joke. I think St. John's could beat anyone in that region, like 100%. If that's the case, if I believe that, then I guess I suppose they could win the whole thing. Them being I have zero understanding of how they have a lower seed than Kansas. It makes no sense to me. I know the Big East isn't like insane, but like, I don't know. I feel like they win the Big East tournament. They beat UConn handedly. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That's a team I think is going to give anyone a hard time. Arguably the greatest college coach of all time. Like, they're going to bring a fight to everybody. There's Hall of Fame coaches in that region. Like, literally maybe a future Hall of Fame coach if Shire can stay there, Duke for a long time. Like, it's pretty insane. Like, it's unbelievable, that region. And then you got the other regions. Like, I think Purdue got probably the best draw of like any team, to be honest. Yeah. Their path could be very, very like easy until they have to go against either Arizona or, in my bracket, I have Arkansas. I think Arkansas is an actual threat to win the whole thing. They won the SEC tournament. They have the best player, in my opinion, in the entire tournament, and he's a guard. And they have another good guard on their team as well. And we always say guard plays good in the tournament. Yeah. Arizona is much more complete, but if they let Darius Acuff like do what he wants to do and he drops 30 against them, Arizona's going to lose. Like, right. And so,
yeah. So I have Wisconsin right now beating Arkansas, which I know is not a popular pick. We don't have them with the better odds here in this game, but I found such a tough time looking at this best wins section and not giving Wisconsin a lot of respect. I know this win came a decent while ago here against Michigan, but 2 wins against Illinois, who I have in the Final Four. Like, I think Illinois is a super, super strong team. Wisconsin's capable of beating them. Kind of tells me they're capable of beating anyone. I mean, their worst losses are not great here either. Second most percentage of points coming from 3. I mean, super volatile team here that like the 3-point shooting is pretty crazy. They have every single guy in their starting lineup, Sam, shoots over like a third of their threes go in. I mean, it's pretty like every single one is shooting over 30% from 3. They got a 40% 3-point shooter. Like, this is a team that I feel like it could really bust a lot of brackets in Wisconsin. That's part of the reason I wanted to have them winning 2 games, but I don't see anyone getting past Arizona. It sounds like you in your bracket right now, you have Arkansas getting past them.
Yeah, and if you go to my TikTok, my bio says Darius Acuff enjoyer. I think he's literally the best player in the tournament, and it's like, maybe it's crazy to say, but like, you think back to like Cardiac Kemba on UConn, he just carried those teams, and they just kept winning. And I think he's that good. He's truly from 3. He's insane. He's really insane. And if Wisconsin and Arkansas play, which is what I also have, that will probably be the best game of the tournament. Like, genuinely, like, it could be an insane game. Wisconsin, if they're hitting their threes against Arkansas with Coach Kyle and Acuff doing his thing, that'd be insane. I also have Illinois in my Final Four, so I'm with you there. They're a little bit scary sometimes, but like, they have Keaton Wagler, who's going to be a high pick in the NBA draft. They're good at defense. They're good at offense. And I kind of feel like Houston is not as good as they typically are in years past. They're normally like very good at defense and not amazing at offense. They're honestly probably better at offense, than they have been in a long time. But the defense is I know it's 5th efficiency there, but it feels like it's not as good as it was. So I feel like they'd match up pretty bad with Illinois in that circumstance. And I like Vanderbilt too. So we agree on that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of upsets I've been going through. I feel like on the left side there's less, and on the right side there's more because I
Yeah.
feel like they're weaker. So, but it's honestly smart to have all ones and maybe one non-one in the Final Four for being smart. Like me choosing Arkansas to go to the Final Four is not smart. Like it's not like
It's so tough for me. The thing that is so tough when you look at just this snapshot, which I think is the most important one, kind of to look at when making these decisions, is like, yeah, you convinced me Arkansas's offense is going to be super strong. That they have this 1-star player, sounds like probably the best player in the tournament, or very likely to be. But their defense, like defense will matter a bit against some of these top teams, and Arizona and some of these other top teams, like these are legit defenses that I get scared when you're only good at offense and you don't have a good defense. Like I think you could just really get outpowered when you have well-rounded teams good on both ends, not relying on just maybe one guy, right? I think there's an element of that with all of those teams kind of I've listed as the 7 teams I could see winning. Like they all have some element of really elite offense and good defense. But at the same time, like my tiebreaker is offense, like always within March. I want the team that can go score when they need to score. So, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth a little bit there, but yeah, I could see it with Arkansas, but it's so hard for me to look at this picture, and their offense is better definitely, but the defenses aren't even close. So it's a tough call for sure.
I mean, Arizona having, I think it's 16 Q1 wins too is just kind of ridiculous out of like 18 games or something. It's like not even close to like anyone else.
And it's also when you look at the worst losses section, and there's one other team I think like this, and you only see 2 losses. I was like, wait, where's the third one? And I was like, oh wow, they literally only lost 2 games. Like that's what I want, right? From my teams, I'm thinking to go far. I actually think Arizona is a pretty sharp team to pick winning. That's who I have winning this bracket here right now, since Duke's going to be the most popular. But Arizona is like pretty much even to Duke's odds to win it all, and like pretty similar strength of team here too. Really well-rounded, top 9 in both offense and defense efficiency. I definitely think they have less name value too, so less people will pick them, which I like in my bigger pools. What about Michigan? Who do you have winning right now, Samson, in your bracket?
In my entire bracket, I have Arkansas winning, but that's just because I'm fully I could change it. I reserve the right to change it, but I'm here to have some fun. I'm never, I'm not going to get the bracket right. So like, might as well go with my favorite player and see if he can keep it going. If I'm being realistic, it's Arizona's probably, like, if I want to be more serious, if I was putting money on it, I'd like Arizona. They have a guy, I can't remember which European country it's from, but he is absolutely insane at pretty much just everything. He's like the glue guy, hustle guy. His name's Karchenkov. He's an absolute beast. He's so good. He's like, you watch him, you're like, this guy's scary. He does everything. He's just so insane.
Crazy.
And I think that Arizona would match up well with Duke. I think Duke is prone to like have some games where it's like, wow, they're really just in a bag right now. They can't really do what they want to do. And
I like the fact that Arizona's like offense is more spread out. They have 5 different players over 10 points per game. I don't think there's another team in the tournament maybe with even 4 players over 10. Like it's pretty rare to see even 3 players. Like in Duke, there's barely 3 players over 10 points per game, like way more concentrated. And it probably is going to be even more concentrated with Caleb Foster out for the first few games as well. And again, like if you go up against good defense and they can just shut down like one guy and then suddenly your offense is stalling, that's the situation that scares me with some of these teams as well. There's also like
was without one of their best players for a large part of the season too. I think he'll be back. We'll see. But I feel like Hawaii got dealt a pretty bad first round matchup there because they play a ton of man-to-man defense. Their thing is like, we're not going to double team, and how are you going to beat Arkansas in a double team? But on the left side with like all those, like the Duke side, I feel like so many people, I think Avery was saying it too, are taking South Florida to beat Louisville, that it almost feels like an upset to take Louisville at this point. Like
Louisville. Yeah.
Louisville is one of the only teams who's top 25 in offense and defensive efficiency.
This is a well-rounded team, but they're also extremely volatile because they shoot so many threes, 41%. Almost half their points are coming from threes. That's top 12 in the nation. These are not out of just the March Madness team. So as you see, they're 144th. This is all of like the 350 teams in Division I. And so like this is to me a really scary team to pick to get upset in round 1 because they're very capable of rattling off multiple wins after this, if they do win, they could beat Michigan State, they could beat UConn or UCLA. Those are the types of upset. Like when I'm picking my upsets in the round 1, at least, I'm trying to pick teams that I don't have any confidence they're going to advance past the next round anyways. Whereas like Louisville, because of their volatility, their 3-point shooting, and they're like actually not bad at defense, they could beat basically anybody. Like it wouldn't be that crazy to see.
If they get Michael Brown back, he's like one of their best players. That it's a whole different story. Like it's a whole. I think if it was confirmed he was playing, there'd be way less people saying South Florida is going to win.
Let me pull this up because I pulled the comment up. If Vanderbilt plays Florida, who wins? Sorry, if Vanderbilt plays Illinois, who wins? To me, like I mentioned, these are two teams I think have a legit shot to win the whole tournament. Basically, both these teams, like against the 1 seeds, assuming they make it to get these games against the 1 seeds, against Florida or in the Final Four later on, or against each other, like these are 50-50 odds, basically, which is how the adjusted efficiencies shake out. And people are not going to pick them 50% of the time in these games in your pools. That's part of the reason it's sharp to take them in bigger pools. But yeah, I lean towards Illinois. Like they're the better overall team. They're better both offensively and defensively. They haven't beat Florida like Vanderbilt has. And this wasn't just a beating. I mean, they destroyed them literally 3 days ago, Sam. So, I mean, this is like, I'm shocked that they're a 5 seed. Vanderbilt is. I get that it's the whole season sort of sample. Neither of these teams have lost like very bad teams either, but the worst losses definitely bodes better for Illinois as well. Better 3-point shooting team. I mean, it's pretty close. I also like all the seniors on Vanderbilt. Feels really, really strong to me. They basically have a full starting lineup of seniors. Not the case for Illinois. I do kind of care about that as well. They have 5 different players at 10 points or above average as well, which again, I was just talking about. Yeah, only 3 for Vanderbilt. So yeah, it's a better defense. It's like comparable offense. I lean Illinois here, but it's basically a toss up with like literally 50-50 basically.
Yeah, they have the best player in the game too, which is typically a tiebreaker for me. If I'm really not sure, go with the team with the best player. And that percentage thing was kind of one of the reasons I wasn't like that, didn't feel that bad to take Arkansas over Arizona. I think Arkansas had over 40% chance when you compared them to Arizona. Like that's a very real chance, like to win that game. So that's the kind of stuff like in a big tournament, if Arizona loses, it's like you're going to be in a good spot. On the Arizona side of the bracket, I do have an upset, like a big upset in the first round here. I made a video about it, and it's a little biased because I went to Kennesaw State, so I'm always gonna be a little bit biased. But like, is it likely? No, there's a 5% chance. Like, it's not likely, but like Gonzaga played against nobody, and they play way slower than Kennesaw State. So if Kennesaw State's hitting their shots and moving the ball and like playing quickly, I mean, they could lose. Like they could, and I honestly don't hate it because in the second round, I could see BYU beating Gonzaga, so you're not like super hurt if you picked Gonzaga to lose. I think this entire region's interesting. You got like Wisconsin and Arizona are complete teams, and then you got Utah State, Arkansas, and BYU who are like kind of like more so Arkansas and BYU who are reliable on one guy to really carry the load. Arkansas does have 2, but like it's 1A and then like a gap and then like 1D or 1F. Like there's no BC. It's like, but Kennesaw State might be without one of their good players, but like they just won the Conference USA tournament. They're hot. And Gonzaga does have the best player in the game, obviously, but they've gone against nobody. They lost to Portland, I think. Like Gonzaga, if they can lose to Portland, they can lose to Kennesaw State. Like, I don't know. Like, how do you lose to Portland? That doesn't even seem possible. Some of these losses are pretty insane when you look at some of these teams. Like, I believe there was one team that lost to New Orleans, and I was like, I didn't even know New Orleans like had a college. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, it's not like super likely, but they're going to be my pick in my bracket. Going to root for my Owls. Always going to choose them if they're in there. They almost won the first time they were in the tournament. They lost on like a buzzer beater or something. So
I don't hate this one. I actually think I'm going to have them in my upset video. I'm going to post yesterday as one of the 3 upsets that I like, because certainly no one's going to pick them. Like no one's picking them. Like more like less than 4% of whatever their win probability is here are going to pick them. I think both like Gonzaga as a 3 seed, like a somewhat well-rounded 3 seed, like not bad on offense, very strong defense. But like you said, they play super slow and they don't shoot threes. Like this is the combo I want in round 1 with upsets, especially with a team that plays fast and can shoot threes. Like they got a chance. I agree with you. I don't know what the spread is in this game. It's probably close to 15 to 20.
I think it's 20 points. I'm pretty sure it's 20.
Seems like too many, I would say, based on the fact that Gonzaga just plays really slow and Kansas State can shoot threes. But yeah, I mean, it's not like they're playing a legit defense here. Definitely the best defense they'll have played all season. So it's a tough thing to call. But I actually do like this as a really non-popular upset.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of tough when they're very good defensive efficiency, but like they've gone against nobody, right? So like they're clamping up teams that aren't good. So it's like, I mean, they beat Alabama. Okay, like
I agree. This quadrant of the bracket's pretty wild as we talk through it. Arkansas and Wisconsin legit teams. Purdue I like a lot. Like I really like a lot of me wants to pick Purdue here to win against Arizona. It's basically a coin flip, similar to my logic on Illinois. Like their defense isn't quite as good as Illinois, but they've literally the number one most efficient offense. Somehow Braden Smith is still playing his 10th consecutive tournament. It feels like, but like I'm willing to bet on him too, and his ability to perform like under pressure and in these big moments. Like I don't think there's going to be a game the whole tournament where Purdue's out of it. Like they're going to have a legit chance to win every single game that they're in. I know they just they just beat Michigan like 80-72 like 2 days ago. Like they're very capable, clearly, of beating everyone. But again, yeah, we talked about Arizona. They literally only have 2 losses. I think Arizona is definitely the safe way to play this region. I would go Purdue if I didn't go Arizona here. I did list them as one of the teams I thought that has a legit chance to win. But any other upsets, Sam, you want to call out before we wrap up and let Seth on?
I'm trying to find one that's like actually an upset that like people aren't really thinking about outside of Kennesaw State. I mean, everyone's like, thinking Akron can beat Texas Tech. I feel like everyone's saying Santa Clara is going to beat Kentucky, which I don't know. I feel like Santa Clara, Kentucky is a tough one for me to like really get.
This is one of the ones I'm planning to talk about tomorrow in my video. They're literally a more efficient team. Like they are a better offense. They have a worse defense, like for sure. But like when I get to call an upset, when they're literally like on paper more efficient, adjusted for strength of opponent, like that feels pretty good to me. I'm sure it's gonna be a popular one because of that. It's really close too, and can we do have Kentucky favored slightly? The sportsbook certainly will as well, but yeah, I like this. This one makes a lot of sense to me just based on the numbers.
And I guess another one I would say would have to happen in round 2. If Ohio State beats TCU and they go against Duke, I think there's Ohio State has Bruce Thornton on their team, who's an absolute baller. It's the same reason I was like Darius Acuff could help Arkansas win a game like that. If Duke has an off game, they're dealing with injuries or whatever, it wouldn't be insane. I've seen a lot of people say that on TikTok too, where it's like Ohio State like is hot, and so teams that are hot, it's sort of like the MLB playoffs. Whoever's the hottest going in, it's kind of like, oh boy, watch out.
Look at their worst losses. So their worst loss game in November, months ago. And these other, like Washington, the game in January. I mean, all these losses were kind of a long time ago. They're 3 worst losses. And this one against North Carolina, they lost by 1 point to North Carolina. That's not a bad worst loss there. Yeah. They Purdue and Wisconsin, 2 strong teams. I think UCLA is a pretty strong team as well. Yeah, I mean, Duke, like Avery laid out such a good argument of like Duke's path is really tough. He's still has Duke winning. So I don't know. He like talked me out of them and talked me back into them. I feel like when he was on, but yeah, I mean, Duke could literally lose as soon as they have legit competition as soon as round 2. And then St. John's is also a pretty tough matchup as well. But at the same time, UConn's not a strong enough 2 seed for me to. It's tough not to have Duke advancing out of this region as the number 1 most efficient team.
Yeah, whoever has to go against Michigan State's going to be in for a tough. Like they're just so slow and so defensive. Like the Louisville game would be like. It's like I would be very interested to watch what happens. Like I don't know. I want Louisville to win. So
volatile team against the 201st most volatile team. The pace here is not comparable to 3. Like these are 2 polar opposite teams.
Yeah, I feel like the people who make the bracket know this stuff sometimes. Like they're doing it on purpose, just to like morbid curiosity. What would happen in this situation?
Well, Sam, thanks so much for hopping on, man. Appreciate all the research you're grinding. As you guys. As we mentioned at the front, you guys can see Sam's entire bracket for free in the WalterPicks app in the featured brackets section of the app. Sam, are you still tweaking yours a little bit, or is yours sort of locked in at this point?
I feel like I'm going to ride with what I got. There's a few picks I might go and switch, but I feel like in the past when I've done that, it's never right. So
Yeah, I'm full on tweaking, like just up till kickoff, like I do with the start sit decisions. I feel like, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm still, like I said, I started really diving deep on Selection Sunday, so I also just want to give myself enough time to get a variety of opinions and analysis in. But that definitely makes sense for someone who's been in the weeds for weeks. You don't want to second guess too much.
yeah, definitely not. So we'll see. I might need to convince myself to just go with Arizona and be boring, but that's not that fun, I don't think. So,
Well, thanks for the time and analysis, Sam. Have a great night, man.
same to you.
All right, we're gonna welcome Seth onto the stage.
What up, everybody?
Yes, Seth, how are we doing, man? Pumped to talk some bracketology with you. I feel like very prepared now that I've talked with Avery and Samson. I've been definitely diving pretty deep myself over the last couple of days. Like I think you just heard me mentioning. I'm going to give you the quick same spiel I gave Samson when he first hopped on to give you how I'm kind of thinking about things at a very high level, and then we kind of get into your bracket and some of the things you agree or disagree with me on. I always like to start with who I think is going to win the whole thing, because in all my pools that I'm in, that basically is what it comes down to. You can't win your pool if you don't get the right winner of the tournament. So I try to work backwards from that and sort of build my strategy around that. For me, there's 7 teams that I think are reasonable to build around to win the tournament. The 4 1 seeds are all reasonable. I think Florida is the weakest of the 1 seeds and who I'd advocate the least for of the 1, but they're definitely capable of winning. Then I have Illinois, Vanderbilt, and Purdue, and that's the end of the list. That's the end of my 7 teams that I think are strong teams to build around. So far on this live, we've heard a pretty good argument for Arkansas. We've heard a decent argument for Iowa State as well. And we've heard some arguments against Duke, but not really like any strong argument for which team would actually come out of this region if Duke were to lose. And I think UConn is a pretty weak 2 seed, in my opinion. Houston, no strong arguments have been made for them. And like, I don't think anyone's really, I think Sam's actually said they're like weaker than usual, even though they're still 5th in defense. They're always so strong on defense. They're basically in 50-50 matchups as soon as the round of Sweet 16. This Southwest region feels like it's going to be what decides these brackets this year. Because I have 3 different teams that I think are reasonable to take to win from this bracket, and it's not even the 2 seed. Who's really strong in defense. Like I feel like there's absolute chaos that could come to fruition here in this region. But that's the high level. Right now, I have Arizona winning. I have Illinois in the Final Four out of that region. I've gone back and forth between Illinois, Vanderbilt as my team to come out. It's so scary to put a 5 seed in the Final Four though, because they could legit lose in round 1, and then there's no worse feeling than just being out of it completely in round 1. And my pools aren't quite large enough that I think it's worth the risk. I do have Duke in the finals right now. I'm definitely strongly considering adjusting that from some of these conversations. But Avery convinced me they have the hardest path, but then also convinced me that that's who he has winning his bracket at the same time. So it's a tough call there. But I'll pause there. Do you agree or disagree with any of that? Then I'm curious to hear who you have winning and sort of like the teams you think make sense to build around winning.
Yeah, I think a lot of the teams you have building around make a lot of sense. Certainly wouldn't argue with anybody if they had a 1 seed or any of the 2 seeds winning the tournament. I think they're all, they all have their own strengths, and there's a lot of opportunity for upsets with NIL, with the transfer portal. The 5 seeds through 1 seeds are all really strong. These are some of the strongest 1 through 5 seeds as a unit we've seen. So I don't have too many upsets in the first round of my bracket. I think the closest game 1 through 5 is the Texas Tech game with Akron, and Texas Tech is like 7.5 point favorites. Every other 1 through 5 is better than a 7.5 point favorite. There's just not going to be too many upsets this year. But after that, I think that's where March Madness really starts, is round of 32. So certainly could be really a lot of teams. It's funny that Avery thought Duke had the toughest path and had them winning, because I think Arizona has the toughest path. I mean, I could make an argument for that pretty much off the jump there, they've got in round 2, Arizona is going to face Utah State most likely, or Villanova. There's probably tougher 8 seeds out there, but it's an 8 seed. I think the same for Ohio State. I like Iowa. I like some of the 8 seeds, but overall, these are 8 seeds.
Right.
But then you're pretty much guaranteed to face Arkansas or Wisconsin. They can beat anybody with their high-powered offenses. And then you're pretty much going to be facing Purdue, or if you're not facing Purdue, you're facing BYU. And
Right.
you either facing one of the best players, AJ DeBonsa, or you're facing Purdue that just looked amazing in the Big Ten tournament. But I still have Arizona winning this tournament. They have the size, they have the bench, they have the defense. I watched their game against Houston, and they were full court pressing Houston. They were locking Houston down and having them shoot like 20% from the floor. It was absolutely ridiculous what this Arizona defense, and they are squeezing the life out of teams. And I think that they can compete with the bigs. They've got their 7-2 guy, and they also have their amazing defense to compete with the guards. So that's why I've got Arizona winning. And it's not, like you said, Duke. It is, based on what I'm reading, the second most popular champion, but it's right around 20%. So right off the bat, if you pick Arizona, and they win, 80% of the brackets are not going to be able to beat you.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think they're a sharp team to pick to win, and it's so tough. Sam says Arkansas winning right now. Or
Great choice as well. If they get past Arizona, I don't know who's going to stop them.
Yeah, and I was just saying this matchup here, Arizona versus Arkansas in the Sweet 16. It's so tough for me to look at this picture and pick Arkansas here. I get that they have a star player, but like when you're going up against a team that's strong defensively and elite defensively, I just feel like they're sort of, Arkansas is more of a one-trick pony here. They're an offensive team. Like they're going to need to put up points to win these games, and they're not going to be able to stop as many teams defensively. You shut down one play. Arizona shut down one player if they have a really strong defense, and it's just like game's over, basically. Like some of these situations, if the defense shows up for some of these teams, their offense keeps pace. It's so tough to compete when you're facing these well-rounded teams. And I generally want to lean towards the offense. Like I want to trust offense to sort it out. But Arizona has good offense too. Like it's not like they don't have offense. When it's this close and then you have this big of a gap in the defenses. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me to not go Arizona there. And I do think that is kind of what differentiates these top 3 1 seeds here from the rest of the tournament a bit. All of these teams, they're not just offensive teams. I mean, these are legit elite defenses that can like really suffocate other teams' like only strength at times in offense. So yeah, that's part of the reason I'm struggling to not have some of these teams in the Final Four. And it's part of the reason I like Illinois too, because they're the number 2 offense. And they're still a really strong top 25 defense that can show up and keep them in games too if their shooting struggles at times, which like there's always going to be a stretch in a long tournament where some of these shooting teams might struggle. And then Purdue, similar thing. Like to me, they're like a little bit of a worse. They're like a scarier version of Illinois because their offense is better. They're number 1 versus Illinois being number 2. But their defense, 36, it's not terrible. It's just hard. If their shooting isn't on, they're going to lose.
They don't have 3-point shooting to come back in games. They don't have Brandon Smith, not a shooter. He shoots a couple times, but teams aren't afraid to leave him open as well. Yeah. And then you have Cuff and you have Kaufman, Wren. These are guys that want to dominate around the basket. That's their advantage against Michigan, who also has an elite defense, who also can't create shooting. They're missing one of their guards due to injury. And this game where they were playing Purdue, they couldn't come back. They had a couple guys trying to create off the dribble, but they were not creating open shots at the end of the game. And that's one of the reasons I think Purdue and Michigan, maybe their defensive stats could be Ademara, a great player, great defensive player. But when you're dominating teams and they're kind of forced to shoot the 3, your defense is going to look a little bit better. Same with Purdue. Their offense is going to look insanely efficient because no one can stop them in the paint. And then the other team's forced to shoot bad 3s. And now their defense is a little inflated. So I think both those teams definitely dangerous, but maybe not as quite as strong as the statistics might lead on.
Yeah. What about Iowa State? Are they do they have a legit chance to come out of this Southeast region here?
I've got Virginia actually coming out of this region. One of the things I love about Virginia is I was watching them play Duke in the regular season, and they were down about 15, 16 points at halftime, and they came out of halftime on fire. Like they did not end up winning the game, but they did not let the deficit at the halftime drop them down. You're going to have to make some comebacks in March if you want to win. They're a team that just played Duke again. They lost by 4 points this time, much closer. The effort, they have the size, those kind of things translate to March extremely well. Where some teams, if you're trying to make shots, hey, it's a big dance. You may be a little nervous. Virginia has just got that effort meter cranked to 10. And that's something I like about this region for them.
I think the reason I ended up taking the upset here with Tennessee, it was this picture we're looking at right now that I feel like is really scary for Virginia. They've got the number one offensive rebound team in the country. What is this? This is the second round,
Yeah.
and they're 119th in defensive rebound. But they're not like a super strong defensive rebound team. They're playing the number one offensive rebound team in the country. Like that to me is just a little scary. Rebounding ends up always being a huge component to these games too. Because if your shots off, or you're just dominating rebounds and you keep getting multiple possessions per or multiple shots per possession, it's a huge advantage. So yeah, I think this is an interesting one here in round two. It's like right off. There's so many 50-50 choices. It feels like in the tournament this year.
Yeah.
I think it's
After
really-
round one, it could go any which way. That's when the madness is going to really start.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think there probably will be less upsets than people want. And I get. I also I didn't say this at the front when we hopped on, but I think we both had all one seeds in the Final Four last year.
It's close. Or if not one, it might have been a 1-2 seed, and I got it wrong because I should have put all one seeds.
Yeah, and I know I had all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four in my bracket last year, and I did have Florida winning too. I won some pools last year because of that, but it felt gross. I remember feeling like, this just feels gross. Like I don't want to be this chalky because there's obviously advantages to going against the grain a bit in really large pools, but it was the right call. Even though it felt bad, it was right, and I think there's some element to that this year with the upsets thing too. Where like, I want to pick some upsets in round one, but I also want to win my pools, and like I think you're spot on in terms of it kind of starting in round two a bit this year more so than past years, just because of how strong, especially seeds 1 through 5.
Yeah.
In this tournament, and like even a week 2, like I think UConn's kind of a week 2 seed, but
yeah, they're much better than Furman. I mean,
it doesn't matter round one.
And a lot of the 12 seeds through 16 seeds were upsets. There was a lot of madness in these conference tournaments where, for example, Northern Iowa, they were the 4th or 5th seed in their conference. There's madness throughout their conference tournament, and they're a team that stole a bid. There's a lot of teams, and we call them bid stealers normally for someone that knocks out an at-large team. But in terms of stealing a bid, they knocked out the 1 seed of their conference. Navy was supposed to be here. They look solid all year. Liberty, Belmont, right here in Nashville, supposed to be here. They didn't make it. They're the strongest teams from their conference all year long, and then they didn't end up in the March Madness tournament because they lost in the conference, leading to maybe it's Kennesaw State, a team that, they're hot right now. They're on a hot streak, but it's been a couple days. It's been a week for some of these teams. It's going to be a few more days, and we're going to have these teams with the film, the prep, the rest, ready to rock and roll on a neutral court. It's not good odds.
Yeah, Sam's talked me into this one a bit, but this is his alma mater. He went to Kennesaw State. So
I was happy to see for him that they made the tournament. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he certainly. He said it was the first time ever. If I heard him right too, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but seems like it could be accurate based on just memory. But the interesting thing, like Sam's actually, there's a decent argument here that like this is maybe being one of the upsets that is a little underrated just because of the pace difference for these teams. Gonzaga plays extremely slow, and they're playing a much faster paced Kennesaw State, and Gonzaga hasn't played very many good opponents. We saw them lose to Portland. That was a while ago, but like this, this being on their resume gives me some hope that Kennesaw State is somewhat comparable to a team like Portland. And that's the argument basically. It's just the pace argument. The 3-point shooting for Kennesaw State is not terrible, especially in comparison to Gonzaga. But there's a reason that they have a 95% chance to win at the same time.
Yeah, I don't trust a lot of these teams like Gonzaga, St. Mary's, UConn, St. John's that played in these smaller conferences. We're kind of comparing a pool of teams that didn't really cross-pollinate like the Big 12, like the SEC, like the Big 10, like the ACC did. I mean, we saw Duke and Michigan play each other on a neutral floor. That's something these big conferences are doing. These smaller conferences didn't really show that. So I do doubt the strength of some of those teams. I've got a lot of them losing early. I'm just a power 4 guy in this tournament. So yeah, Kennesaw State, you want to match up. You want to match up against these teams from these smaller conferences because, they can lose. You've seen them lose. If they've lost any games this year, they've probably lost to some bad teams because they play so many of them.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Any other teams that you have losing early in round 2 that fit that description?
Yeah, I do have UConn losing in round 2 as well. UCLA, they were one of my favorite teams. I mentioned them in the March Madness guide is either out in the app or releasing later today. They were kind of floating between a 10 seed. I was so glad they didn't end up on the 8 or 9. If they were a 10 seed, that's fine with me. If they're a 7 seed, that's great as well. They've got the size to compete with big schools. They just beat Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. They have, one of their players is injured. He's expected to be there for the first game. Dent, their top player there. But we'll have to see. He is projected to play. And they're a team I do have beating UConn, who again, like UConn's biggest wins are against like St. John's. And it's like, okay, we're comparing St. John's to UConn and UConn to St. John's. It's like, is this really? And they did play some good teams, but like in January and December, Florida is so much better than they were to start the year. Purdue looking way better than they were just a few weeks ago. So not having big cross-pollination between those conferences, I don't trust UConn. I don't trust St. John's. Nebraska, I don't like. I know that's a different conference, but those are some of the top seeds I've got losing in round 2.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. And so you said you do have Arizona winning right now?
I do have Arizona winning against Florida. Florida is a good choice in terms of bracket differentiation because they're a 1 seed. 14 of the last 18 champions have been 1 seeds, and they're chosen to win about 7% of the time. So maybe we double that and say 14% of the time they're in the finals because Duke is the most popular champion. So most people are going to have Duke, maybe 40%, about 23%, according to, I forget who I read it from this morning, but top one of the bracket builder sites.
Around 25% with Duke, around 20 Arizona. And then Michigan's probably next after that in like the 15 to 20% range. Then Florida's probably next, but like a pretty step down. They're definitely the least picked 1 seed. I think they are the weakest 1 seed, but they're still a legit team. Like they're still like these are all strong 1 seeds. I really like Vanderbilt and Illinois. I feel like Florida got a pretty rough draw to get through.
I agree, but I do think Vanderbilt is a little bit overrated. I may make a video about this tomorrow because one of the things about Vanderbilt is they did play great at the end of the year. They beat Tennessee twice. They did go to the SEC championship final, but that was right here in Nashville. They're sleeping in their own bed. I was actually downtown Sunday playing some Gaelic football in the park, and I believe it was the Vanderbilt band, and it's pretty much a stone's throw from Bridgestone Arena. So they're sleeping in their own bed. They're bringing their own friends, family. Everybody's been in town probably for the whole weekend, and they're getting them new tickets to these next games because they keep winning. They're not even leaving town. They're pumped up. The players are excited. While you have Florida, you have Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas did win the tournament, but you got Florida going up from Florida. Obviously, that's a big trip for students and a big trip for the team. And the games are back to back to back. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. These games, you got rest, you got time, you got film. I don't see him beating Florida again for those reasons, but they certainly are a dangerous team.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Definitely totally reasonable arguments there. March Madness is a whole different sort of setup in terms of the neutral sites and the cadence. Talk me into Florida here over Illinois, though, because when I look at these worst losses for Florida, this is not the same Florida team as last year. They don't have the guard right from last year that like just carried in the tournament, and just that alone, like the fact that he's not here, like they definitely don't win last year without him. I mean, he was an absolutely huge part of their run, just nailing massive shots throughout the whole tournament, including the end, especially their final 3 games. They're not as good as they were last year, and it's still a really strong pool of teams. And then I look at this; their worst losses are worse than Illinois. Their best wins are pretty comparable. Like this just feels like a pretty even matchup to me. Their defense is better, offense is worse. I mean, is there a strong argument for Florida over Illinois here, or do you kind of agree with the numbers here is pretty close, like pretty even?
Well, I would say that over the course of the season, I would agree. But Florida, that loss to Auburn we have in the worst losses section, aside from losing to Vanderbilt, and I'll say it's a neutral site, but pretty much a home game here in Nashville. They hadn't lost since that Auburn game in January 24th. They're beating teams. I'm just looking at their games since then. They beat Alabama by 23. They beat Texas A&M by almost 20. They beat Georgia by 20. They beat Kentucky by 9. After that Kentucky game, they did not win a game by less than 10 points until they played Kentucky again. They beat Arkansas 111-77. Mississippi State 108-74. They beat Kentucky another time 71-63. Then they did end up losing pretty badly to Vanderbilt. I did talk about why I think that may be a little bit of a unique situation with the tournament, the day after day play, but they are blowing since that Auburn loss, they're blowing the doors off of everybody. And this is a new Florida team. They kind of found their stride. They did kind of turn over Walter Clayton Jr. last year, leading them to the championship. It took some time to find their footing this year without such a dominant player. I believe he played at Florida for at least a couple years. So they kind of had to refine themselves. And it seems like at the end of the season, they did. And one of the reasons I like Florida so much is they're winning games by so much that they're not a huge risk to lose early in this tournament. And then this game, it could go either way, but Florida does have a strong defense, and Illinois hasn't played as many strong defenses this season. I know it's adjusted for strength of schedule, but the SEC they did bring the most tournament teams, and Florida won that conference in the season and has been pretty amazing since that loss to Auburn back in January.
What do you think? So if I switch this to Florida here, if Duke doesn't win this region, because if I'm not picking Duke to win the whole thing, like I do think it's not a terrible strategy to also pick them not making it to the Final Four. So
I don't have them in my Final Four.
Yeah, so sort of double dipping like on that take, right? If I'm right, I sort of win twice a bit against teams that pick Duke. They're not only out, but everyone else that's left that had Duke in their Final Four, I sort of have an edge on them as well if they pick the same winner as me or some of the same Final Four as me. I could see a pretty good argument for UCLA, and that would be really, really sort of different than pretty much everyone probably in the pools that I'll be in. I think Michigan State, like I'm not very into UConn. So like, I just don't.
I'm not either. I've got UConn losing in the same game to UCLA.
Yeah. I know you said you had UCLA winning. So do you have Michigan State then coming out?
I do have Michigan State coming out. Caleb Foster, based on the research I did at the beginning of this week when the brackets were released, they're saying he might not be back to the Final Four. The Final Four, just looking at the brackets here, start April 4th. So that's quite a bit of time. I mean, he had a broken foot, I believe, and he had surgery on that broken foot. And he's going to probably be, I would assume, I mean, I'm old, so I would get out of shape extremely quickly. He may not be in the shape that he wants to be in if he's not running, jumping. He hasn't been playing in the March Madness games, and suddenly it's like, oh, you wake up and you're in the Final Four. That's a big deal. This would be an advantage for them, though, if Duke does not have him. You get at Boozer, you try to get him in foul trouble early on in the game. You just attack him. Jeremiah Fears, I'm not a huge fan of the antics, but certainly a player that can get under the opponent's skin. They're a team that goes to the rim. They could get Duke in foul trouble and beat this team.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think, too, without Caleb, I don't think Caleb Foster is the most consequential player on the team, but it does make the team even more concentrated than it already was. And that's a little bit what I was saying before, too. When you play these well-rounded teams, and suddenly if they could just take one player out of the game and then suddenly like you can't score, that dynamic could happen. Michigan State, though, they're not like amazing at anything. Yeah, they're good at both defense and offense. They don't really jump off the page as like elite really in any one thing. The rebound rate's really strong. Actually, the rebounding.
Yeah, defensive rebounding, best in the nation. That has to do with them also not shooting a ton of threes because it's obviously a lot easier to get your rebound if you're shooting a 2 and you're already around the glass. But that's where they can get those extra possessions and get Duke into foul trouble. So many fouls that you see watching this game is on the rebound with big guys trying to go over the top or hammering or hook and hold. That is where Michigan State can just grind out a win against Duke.
Yeah, and I do like their two top best wins here against Illinois and Purdue. Both two teams I think have a legit chance to win the whole thing.
Arkansas is on there as well.
Yeah, Sam's made a really strong case for Arkansas being great too. Their worst losses aren't terrible either. I said this, I think, with Arizona too. It's so tough to pick against these teams with only 2 losses. Though, like these worst losses, it's like this. That is a team you kind of want to bet on in March Madness. They have lost twice this entire season against legit competition. That there's a reason Duke is the most efficient team in the tournament. It's not just Caleb Foster. Like there's no way it's just him either.
And I agree with that. Their defense is incredible. Not only is their defense so good, they also don't foul. So getting them into foul trouble is a real challenge for this team. But Caleb Foster, I mean, looking at some of his recent games, he played 24 minutes against Virginia in a game they won by 26 points, 25 minutes against NC State, a game they won by almost 30 points. I mean, you take a guy that plays big minutes in any sort of close game, floor general, a guy that's moving the ball around. It may not matter in round 1, 2, and 3. That's why I don't think Duke do have that tough of a path to get to this game. I see St. John's as one of the weaker 5s, really only matching up against UConn. They have that game where they got crushed by UConn with their offense just not showing up. Kansas, they are a very fickle team. As a Kansas fan, you never know which team is going to show up. But against Michigan State, if they don't have Caleb Foster back at that point, that's where I see it start to matter a little bit more compared to some of the earlier rounds.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I think it's pretty reasonable. So do you have Arizona, Florida in the final?
I do, yeah. I've got my final four is Michigan State, Florida. I've got Florida winning that matchup. And then the other side, I've got Arizona against Virginia and Arizona beating Florida in the championship game.
Yeah, Michigan State. I mean, it feels like as soon as the Elite Eight this year, definitely in the Final Four, it's like every single matchup's between 45 and 55% win probability.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Which I think it really does for me in my pools bring in the game theory side of trying to win pools, of just picking the teams that people are picking less. Because if all these games are coin flips, but there's a huge percentage of people on one side, and there just is an edge to go with the other side here, which I think is part of the reason I like Arizona over Duke as the championship. And like, it's not that crazy to go Michigan State here either, just looking at this matchup if you have them going this far anyways.
Yeah, I'm worried about like Florida. I really liked that team. I was excited. Last year, I was like, they're going to win. Like, I was really confident. I had them winning in most of my pools. In my one official bracket, I had them winning as well. This year, it's definitely more up in the air. Injuries to Duke and Michigan, though, I think just give the other one seeds a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Any other upset calls or takes you want to get off before we wrap up here, Seth?
Not a lot of big ones. I'm just not going too many upsets like Kentucky. I'm taking Kentucky. Like you said there, it's maybe a 50-50. It's like a 2-point spread. This is one of the most likely upsets in the first round. Santa Clara, they don't play as much high level competition, obviously. And if so many people are going to take Santa Clara, I'm just going to take the favorite.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take the team with probably the better players at the end of the day. It's Kentucky versus Santa Clara. So that's one way where I see you can kind of differentiate your bracket by just choosing the favorite. So that's one where I totally respect it. Definitely a likely upset. But it's going to be so common that, I think you can get an advantage there. I do like Missouri a lot against Miami. That's another one of the most likely upsets. Missouri has a couple 1-point wins. I think they beat Vanderbilt by 1 point. They're in the was it the West?
I'm starting to have it memorized as I see more of this. Yeah. Missouri, they're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, and Miami's been good as well. You can see Missouri took down Florida a while ago. They beat Vanderbilt by 1. They shot, I think, 18 of 19 from the free throw line. Missouri's not normally great at free throws, but they showed up that day. They beat Tennessee. They did have some bad losses, but they kind of another team that turned up at the end of the year, a lot like Miami did. Both good teams, but I'm going with the upset on this one.
Yeah, and this is another one though too. Like Miami's just definitely better. Like, they're definitely the better team here. Like, I feel like the upsets in this first round, it really are kind of, you're gonna have to force some of them, and I think people will end up forcing too many. This one does seem like probably the most popular one. And when I was looking at this isn't an upset. What do you mean that they're literally the more efficient team? Like, Santa Clara is literally the more efficient team on the season. But you're probably right. Kentucky probably just does have better players.
Yeah,
right at a baseline, and the defense is like much better for Kentucky. Like, there's a good argument that they're the better, well-rounded team here, even if it nets out overall towards Santa Clara. And has Santa Clara played any team as good as Kentucky all season? No, right?
No, they haven't, and they haven't beaten the same teams Kentucky's beaten. Kentucky's just played 2 games against Florida. I mean, it doesn't get much better preparation than that.
Even these worst losses, like these are
not bad,
comparable to Santa Clara, probably.
Yeah, at the very least. So yeah, and then just overall, I would I wrote a whole March Madness bracket guide. It's in the WalterPicks app. That's also free with code NOBS. You guys can check that out, and it's got some bracket tips. Like Sam's been saying, a lot of these games are 50-50. Choose your teams. Like, go with your guys. Like, I'm not trying to say that I can see the future with my bracket. You can also check that out as well. But go with the teams you like. But 1 seeds, they make it to the Elite Eight 75% of the time. I would toss them in there. I wouldn't have any 1 seeds losing before the Elite Eight. In the first round, 4 seeds win 80% of their matchups. So I don't have any upsets there if you want to win your pool. Even the 5 seeds this year, I'm tossing them in because they're such heavy favorites. So all of my upsets are between the 6 seed and the 6 seed to the 8 seed. There's not many upsets in round 1, but once round 2 hits, aside from the 1 seeds, let the madness begin. That's where you can differentiate your bracket. Anything can happen. The teams are much closer across the board.
Yeah, just looking at this chart, I know it's really small here, probably on the screen, but we have this little chart at the end once you've completed your bracket in the app of the upsets the last 5 years as we define upsets. We're not defining like a 9 beating an 8 as an upset. I think it's at least 12 over 5 is how we're defining upsets, at least in the first round. Last year was 8. Like you can see the downward trend here. It almost cut in half last year. I think like over the course of this live, there's been a pretty good argument made that trend probably continues. There might be less than 8 this year.
I would think there is, yeah.
Or
I wouldn't be surprised if there's 1 or 2, honestly. It's going to be like, people are going to complain. Like, people are going to be upset. Like, where's the madness? Yeah, they're paying people now. It's a professional league, and the best teams have the best players.
Right. Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a shifting landscape. But it does feel unique to last year, though, at the same time. Where last year, like, I felt pretty strong at the end. 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. Like, these 4 1 seeds are like pretty historically good 1 seeds. Whereas this year, there's still a good argument to do that.
Yeah.
But there's a few of these other teams that like probably would have been 1 seeds in past tournaments.
100%. Yeah.
Throughout the tournament. So like there's a bit more of teams that could make a run, which I think is fun. And I think should make for more excitement, I think, in these later rounds.
Yeah, the committee is certainly hoping for it. We'll see if it happens. There's a couple of great round 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, not having a lot of upsets in round 1. Maybe it's a hater, but it makes a great tournament. Just like the college football playoff. You don't want to see the top team lose in round 1 to a team that you don't want to see them lose to Arizona State. You don't want to see them lose to the JMU. You don't want to see them lose to anybody that just squeaked into the tournament, because I want to see Arizona versus Wisconsin. I want to see Texas Tech and Alabama. I want to see the 4s and 5s match up. I want to see the 3s and 6s match up, because those are going to be incredible basketball games. So not a team that makes it to the Sweet 16, beating a 14, then beating an 8 or a 9 or a 10.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I'm just looking at this too. A lot less brackets have Florida. I feel like less brackets are going to have Florida than this. Even like I just feel like too the back-to-back narrative, people will talk themselves out of a bit. Oh, it's not going to happen twice in a row, and that obviously is not really how math works like at all. We have given them a 6% chance to win it all. If less than 6% of brackets come in, it's definitely an interesting one. For sure. And yeah, just to call out all the stuff you're seeing on screen throughout this whole live, this is free in the WalterPicks app. Seth wrote up a super powerful guide to March Madness bracket building in general. And once you build a bracket in the app, you can sync it to NCAA, CBS, or ESPN, the main 3 places you're going to having your pools, which has been super, super nice this year for sure. Seth, thanks so much for the time, man. Was great picking your brain. My bracket has changed a lot over the course of this live stream, which has been, I think, like, are you still tweaking yours, or is yours sort of like set in stone at this point?
The only thing I might change is UCLA. If they're missing their best player, I probably will switch UConn to winning that matchup. I don't want to. It's projected that he's going to be in. He also will have like an extra week before that game. But if a team's missing their best player, well, I think that gives me license to change it. But other than that, it's set. Yeah,
that's fair. Mine's definitely going to be tweaked up till kickoff. I think you might have heard me say that just before we hopped on. I'm treating these like the start-sit decisions. I'll be sweating them up probably at least through tomorrow, maybe not so much on Thursday. But yeah, I'm still thinking through. I'm going to be in a few different pools. I do kind of like just doing one bracket, even though there's a good argument to switch it up.
I'm feeling it as well. I'll probably do the full 25 on ESPN just because, hey, want that perfect bracket opportunity, but I'm happy just really putting a ton of effort into one bracket.
Yeah. It's definitely more. It's similar to being in too many fantasy leagues.
Yeah, it's not as fun.
I'm very familiar with, and it definitely changes things a bit. Seth, thanks so much for the time, man. Have a great rest of your night, and good luck this March Madness.
Yeah, same to you. Super excited for it.
That was Avery, Samps, Seth breakdown. Man, I got a lot of tweaking to do, I think, on this tournament. I'm definitely pretty convinced to go pretty anti-upset in round 1. I do kind of want to ride with Kennesaw State with Samps a bit. This does seem like a fun upset to take. I don't think there was a terrible narrative there, but man, Gonzaga's almost definitely going to smash here. They're 20-point favorites, Seth said. Man, I think that the right time to start picking the upsets is round 2 from what I've heard. I think Duke is a good team to bet against because they're going to be so popular, but they're also, I am definitely in the camp, as I've thought about it more and talked through this more, of the loss of Caleb Foster mattering less than I think a lot of people are thinking. I don't think Duke loses until maybe the Elite 8 here, and by that point he might be back. or 1 game from being back. And they definitely can win these games without him too. But because they're going to be so popular, I'll probably end up not going with them since I'll have a pretty choppy bracket the rest of the way. That's kind of where I'm landing. I'm probably gonna tweak this a little bit more tomorrow morning. I still kind of think Arizona is the right champion to pick based on the numbers as well. I have the most confidence in them. They have no injury concerns. I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to win with just one player, like Sam's was saying. I do think Purdue is honestly an interesting one as well, but they just don't have as well-rounded of a defense, not as well-rounded of a team in general. In Arizona, yeah, only 2 losses. I really do want to bet on these teams with only 2 losses. I think that's absolutely a good signal. All right, that's my time, guys. Time is the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. Good luck in March Madness for you all. Make sure you're using the WalterPicks app to help you out if you need it. And I'll be back live probably in the next few weeks talking through some NFL draft rookie analysis. Our rookie guide will be launching in the coming weeks. Super pumped for that. Have a great night and good luck, everybody.